So the first step is to understand how you can pass the exam. Understand the key things needed in order to pass this exam. So what I suggest you do is you make sure you read every chapter of this study text, you watch every video of this tuition video series to ensure you are well aware of what is required, how you can analyze the pre-scene, how you can plan, practice planning, how you can write or how you should be writing, how you can practice your writing, how you can practice your time management to make sure you cover the entire requirement in the exam. Also, attend the masterclasses, because in the masterclasses, we'll be going through planning, we'll be going through writing, we'll be going through lots of key tips on how to get the most out of your exam script. And you'll be able to ask your tutor as many questions as you want, which is invaluable as well. So ensure you attend those masterclasses and you ask all the questions you may have. Ensure that you have revised the EF&P syllabus. Now, this is not the main focus of the case study exam. You've already been tested on the EF&Ps in your objective test. In this exam, it's more about how you apply that knowledge. So you still need to have a certain amount of knowledge so you can apply it effectively, but you don't need to go back and revise all of your objective tests and all of your textbooks. Just look at a few key topics that are most relevant to the case study exam. And we actually provide those in our study texts, in our core activity packs, and also the appendix in this particular study text. Then conduct a full analysis and a strategic analysis of the pre-scene. So be aware of everything that you want to bring up in the pre-scene so that you can use it effectively. CIMA wants you to be using information from the pre-scene. And what I mean by a strategic analysis is to essentially look at those key F and P topics and apply information from those to the case study. So if you think about risks, if you think about funding, if you think about the motivation of staff within the organization, are there any issues over motivation? Are there any risks? Are there any issues with regards to how they're going to be able to source funding for future plans? Using that theoretical information and applying it to the pre-scene is the process you should be undertaking when preparing for the exam. Then make a list of likely exam issues so you can prepare for those. For example, in the past, there have been pre-scenes where certain issues have come up again and again and again throughout the pre-scene. So, for example, there was one about a company that created safety equipment for cars, and driverless cars were referenced throughout the pre-scene. So chances are a question on driverless cars was going to come up in the exam. So you need to be ensuring that you have an idea of how you're going to approach questions on driverless cars. You need to think about how you are going to answer those questions, what kinds of issues might arise, and also have some industry examples. Another example was a company that produced soft drinks, and it was referencing a potential sugar tax throughout. And this was also a big contemporary issue at the time. So you should have gone into that exam well prepared with several different industry examples for sugar tax. Once you have analyzed the pre-scene, you've done your revision, you've thought of the likely issues, it's time to practice your first mock exam. And be sure that even on the very, very first mock, be sure that you take it under exam conditions. Otherwise, it is not going to be of any use to you because you have to sit it in the same conditions that you would get on the exam day. Otherwise, it is of no help. You then need to review the solutions to those mocks. Once you've finished, look at the model solution and ask yourself a few key questions. Did I answer the question asked? If the question was to analyze a series of projects and whether they were something that the company should undertake, did you answer that question? Or did you spend half an hour writing everything you knew about net present values and the advantages of them and disadvantages of them, just because the reference material gave you a net present value? If so, You didn't answer the question asked because they did not ask you to analyze the validity of net present values as a project appraisal tool. They asked you to analyze whether or not this company should undertake the project. And the financial aspect of it arising from the net present value is just one part of that. Which models and theories did they use in the mock exam? Did you not mention them? Did you fail to realize that those were going to be relevant? If so, make a note of them. Will they be useful in the future? What other key points are in the solution that weren't brought up? For example, going back to the net present value. If you said the net present value was positive, therefore we should undertake it because it provides value to the company, that's all well and good. But did the solution then say that the cost of capital used in the net present value was potentially wrong because it was a brand new project and therefore quite risky, and we should adjust the cost of capital to be higher to discount the predicted cash flows to a greater extent to take into account the fact that it was riskier? That's a good point. Did you think of that point? If not, make a note of it. Be aware of these sorts of things so that you'll bring them up in the next time you get a question like that. Also, the writing style and approach. Do you look at your mock and think, well, I spent ages, several paragraphs, writing what the solution has said in one paragraph? Is the solution far tighter and more direct? That's the approach that you need to be taking because it's a very time-sensitive exam. You can't be wasting your time beating around the bush, writing the same point 3 times in 3 different ways, or spending 3 paragraphs to make one small point. You need to be direct in your approach. And particularly if you have problems with writing an effective answer, review or get external feedback on those mocks. If you are really worried that you're just simply not realizing where you went wrong, then get someone else, someone who's experienced a marker, for example, the markers that we have here at Astranti, to review those and provide you with external feedback. It's always useful to get an independent view on what you are doing well and what you are not doing well on, because this will really up your performance. And we see that time and time again on our courses. We see students get better and better with each mock they take because they are getting external feedback from an expert and incorporating that into their next attempt. Number 8 is to take remedial action. So to look at the real weaknesses of what you are doing. If you really are not getting to grips with writing style, then undertake some writing practice. If you're really not getting to grips with using industry examples, then do some more industry research. If you are really struggling to plan effectively, then set some time aside just to plan questions. Don't even bother answering them at this point. Just plan question answers over and over again. And this is a step that is regularly missed, but it's actually very important. Look at the specific weaknesses you have and take specific action on those weaknesses. And once you've done all that, the next step is to repeat those steps time and time again. Repeat those steps 5 to 8. So taking mock exams, reviewing those solutions, getting them reviewed externally, and taking remedial action on your weaknesses. Do that time and time again on a loop, and you'll see real improvement as you progress. Step number 10 is the day before the exam. And I'm sure everyone is worried the day before the exam, but it's a key opportunity to do a few bits of last minute preparation that can make all the difference on the exam day. And when I say that, don't mean I'm going against what I said earlier about last minute revision not helping, because I still believe that you still can't pass this exam solely on last minute cramming. But there are key things that you can do the day before the exam to ensure you're in the best possible position. So for example, reread the pre-scene and your strategic analysis. The strategic analysis being based on those models from the CIMA syllabus. And the reason why I suggest this is because when the pre-scene is released, students know the pre-scene really, really well because it's all they have to go on. They just read through it and read through it. And then when they start their exam practice is quite poor, but they start working on it. And their exam practice pays off because they get better and better and better as they go through their mock exams. But the references to the pre-scene sometimes get sparser and sparser. And the reason for this is because they've shelved the pre-scene to the side and are just focusing on their exam practice. But what you need to do now is take all that exam practice you've been doing and revise the pre-scene so that you can put in more references to the pre-scene into your much better scripts. And then you have got a well-written script that also references the pre-scene. And once you've read through it, make a list of key points from the pre-scene. No more than a page or two of A4 of really key points, things that you really want to make sure you bring up, and learn that off by heart. But you can't learn the pre-scene off by heart, but you can learn a page or two of key facts and figures. And the great thing about doing this as well is it means you won't need to be constantly looking back at the pre-scene in your exam, which is a waste of time. Make sure you look at those key lessons from your mock exams. You should have been getting fewer and fewer lessons as you've been going through because you should have been incorporating them as you go along. But just re-revise those key issues, those key mistakes you were consistently making to ensure you don't make them in your actual exam. And also re-revise the key theories that you have been looking at throughout your studies, just to make sure that you are really up on your knowledge of them so that you can bring them up in the exam, confident that you know exactly what you're talking about and confident that you are using them effectively. And then finally, exam day is here. And I'm sure you're all super excited for exam day, and there are also a few key things that you need to be doing on the exam day. And the first one of these things is to act with confidence. Remember the phrase, fake it till you make it. Believe in yourself. Believe that you are going to pass this exam. And this is actually very important because if you go in there with a negative attitude, not only will you not be believing in yourself, but you are also risking the chance of being really ruffled. If you are confident you will pass and then you hit a bit of a roadblock with a particular question that you find difficult, you're still confident because you think, well, I answered that other question really good. This one might not be as good, but I will answer all the other questions really well. Or I'm going to have a really good go at this. I know it's not my strongest point, but I'm really going to have a go at it. Whereas if you go in there with a negative mindset and then you get a question that you just don't have any idea, or you just think, oh, I knew this was going to be a failure. I knew it was going to be a disaster. I know I'm going to fail it. And here's the proof. Here's a question I just can't answer. So being confident can make a very significant difference. Make sure that you work effectively throughout and quickly throughout. And ensure that you plan your answers really, really well and stick to those writing style guides because this can make a huge amount of difference. Countless students have come to me in the past and said, do I need to plan? It's such a time-sensitive exam. I've got so much to do. I don't know if I can afford to spend 25% of my time planning. That is not the approach to take. Yes, it may sound like an odd thing given that you have to work quickly, but a decent plan will be able to be turned into a good answer far more effectively than a blank screen will. As long as you practice your planning and you learn how to plan effectively, this will help you so much when it comes to writing your answer. And you'll be able to write a much better answer in half an hour from a decent plan than you will be able to write a decent answer from a blank screen in 45 minutes. So never skip on the planning because the planning will actually help you to write and to work far more quickly as you progress through your answer. Also, keep going. If you hit a roadblock and it makes you think, oh, I don't know how to answer this question, move on. If you've got a plan and you've got 10 different points that you're going to bring up in your plan, you answer a few of them, then you get to another one and you think, I don't know how to write about this point. Just move on, because a complex point is worth 1 mark, an easy point is worth 1 mark. You may as well keep going, move on, and get the easy marks that you can get in the bank. And that is how you should be approaching your answer on exam day. Don't let yourself get ruffled. Be confident, work quickly, plan effectively, and keep going no matter what. And I'd like to wrap up by saying good luck. Thank you for joining me for this tuition video series. I hope you have found it very useful, and I truly wish you all the best in your exam. And do remember that those people who practice, those people who work hard, tend to be the luckiest people. So there is a tip there.